is to get a sacrifice and bring it to the altar. Can I preach? And bring it where? To the altar. Now remember, the altar in the Bible days is not this. The altar in the Bible days is a grill. Especially if it's going to be a burnt offering, it's a grill. And people get to eat after the sacrifice is offered up to God. Okay? No sacrifice wants to be the sacrifice. So once the sacrifice hears that there's sacrifice, they start running. They take off running. And that's what they do. They hear that a sacrifice is going to be made. So what do? They take off running. They're off running. And the priest is the only one that's allowed to touch the sacrifice. So in order to get it, he's got to go after what is running. So the priest figures out a way to snare the sacrifice. God eliminating the process. He figures out a way to snare it. He can't have people helping him. He's the only one that can touch the sacrifice. Am I okay yet? All right. Now, once the sacrifice is caught, he's got to take that thing, pick it up. That's what he has to do. And if, oh, you're not hearing me today, and if, what kind of woman got a man like this she can just pick up, carry upstairs, tell him, come on upstairs. And if the sins of the multitude is many, jump up, huh? If the sins of the multitude is, get up there, boy. If the sins of the multitude is many, he's got to carry. Don't you worry about it. You just jump like this and don't drop my man. He ain't your man. This is a sacrifice. He's got to carry the sacrifice up the steps of the altar, which is 13 flights up, dripping with blood, to get them up on the altar. And once they get them on the altar, he's got to raise them up so that the first sacrifice is laying on the altar. And the second sacrifice is waiting to be placed. Out of breath. The priest starts going through the ritual of preparing the sacrifice. Then he has to stand between the altar and God and slit open the sacrifice from throat to lower gut, spilling all the innards out. Are you hearing me? Spilling all the innards out, cleaning the priest's garment is full of blood. And when God sees this, he steps back and he says, how lovely are the feet of them that preach the gospel of good news. God is looking for stained slippers and spotted garment with blood that flowed from a sacrifice that the priest chased around the forest, carried on his back, carried him up the steps, and threw him on an altar. So that this sacrifice can be transformed. Behind you. It said be transformed. Did you jump in for king? You ain't getting no ride today. Can be transformed to this. That no matter how many sins are in his life that he never paid for them, Because everything he did, he has to carry. And between his good fortune with God and his death is the priest who is called the intercessor. And the minute his sins are forgiven on the way leaving the temple, he may do something else. So then the priest goes and grabs another sacrifice and goes through the same process. It's not so that someone else can get forgiveness, but that the same person who was just forgiven can receive. I shouldn't have used you because they said you got to get sacrifices without spot, blemish, or injury. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Thank you. All right. So now, Bishop, why is this important? This is important because before you was born, God already changed you. Okay, I'm going to try that again. Before you were already born, God already changed you. He already went through the process. So now, even though your presentation is jacked up, when your presentation comes up before God and the cake is cracked or the cake is smashed, Jesus takes the cake, fixes it, and brings it to God. He intercedes for us. He knows the way we take our down sittings and our upright. He understands that. But in this moment of grace, even if Jesus doesn't get the presentation, if God gets the presentation, God alone gets the presentation and the cake is jacked up, do you know what the Lord says? He says, I know the thoughts I think concerning you. And these are good thoughts, thoughts that's going to bring you to an expected end. He says, listen, I done came down once and I ain't got to go down no more. I know what you go through. I know what you feel. I know what you're dealing with. And I'm going to be, am I helping anybody yet? And I'm going to be there for you. There is therefore now no condemnation. If you can get rid of the condemnation, you can get the healing that was already paid for and designated and deposited in your account. You're walking around sick and don't have to be sick. Stressed out and don't have to be stressed out. In poverty and don't have to be in poverty. Okay, now,